I think we should maybe unmute a manageable group. Or maybe not if they're outside, could be loud. Well, hello, everyone. Look at you guys. What a great looking crew out there today. Hey, just so you guys know, just like we did before, I have you guys muted. Otherwise, I'll hear all the noise coming from your houses. So I can't hear you, but you can hear me. Can everyone hear me? Give me a thumbs up if you can hear me okay. All right, look at all the familiar faces. It's so good to see all you guys. And we got some new faces. Well, welcome, everyone. For those of you guys that already know, of course, my name is Mr. Billy the paleontologist. For a lot of you familiar faces I see there. For those of you that are joining us for the first time, welcome to Fossil Posse Adventures, where we like to explore the dinosaurs and the prehistoric world of Earth's history. And we'll go back into all kinds of cool stuff. I want to give a shout out to my friend Gabe. He's out there somewhere. I can't see the screens all that well, but my friend Gabe's birthday is tomorrow, and he's a huge dinosaur fan. He's on here today with us. So happy birthday tomorrow, Gabe. I know you're excited about all your stuff. And I know a lot of you guys are excited. A lot of you guys got your fossil kits in the mail, and some of you guys have fossil kits on the way. I promise they'll be there probably in the next couple of days. You'll be all ready for next week too. And I'm so excited you guys are joining us because I think this is going to be a really fun series of shows where they're a little bit smaller. We get to chat a little bit more about all these crazy cool animals, right? All kinds of neat stuff. What do you say we jump right back in, huh? Get right back into it. I'd say let's go. So for today, you guys all should have your expedition cards. If you have your expedition cards, go ahead and grab those. There we go. I see. All right. This is Expedition 1. It is June 20th, 2020. You guys should all have your footprint cast. You guys have your footprint cast we sent you? Your Raptor? Yeah, there they are. There they are. I see you guys holding them up. So the Raptor track will be the three-toed one. It's kind of roundish. It's kind of got the three toes. Let's see, hold it up there. It should be about this big, kind of roundish. You guys should have that. And that's the, yeah, there we go. I see, yeah, there it is. Okay, well, that's a tooth. There should be the Raptor track. See if you can hold that up. I don't know you boys up there. I see you holding everything up. Yeah, you guys, like you guys got them. So these Raptors were found. That's a track that was from a dinosaur that was found right here in Colorado. A really cool little raptor, right? And let's talk about raptors for a second, right? Because we always think, let me ask you guys, raise your hands if you guys have all seen any of the Jurassic Park movies. Yeah? A lot of you guys have seen the Jurassic Park movies, right? Well, of course, raptors are just famous because of the movies, right? We just hear the word raptor and we know right away what people are talking about. But really, what raptors are is they're from a family of dinosaurs called the dromaeosaurs. And dromaeosaurs are what you would think when you think of raptors. They're small, bipedal dinosaurs, and bipedal dinosaurs means they walked on 2 feet, theropods, right? And generally speaking, they had very lightweight bodies, very thin bones, right? They had feathers, and they were meat eaters. Generally speaking, they were meat eaters. They had a lot of teeth. So the word dromaeosaur, that kind of got put by the wayside when the movies came up, and everyone just started talking about raptors, because there was lots of different kinds of raptors, right? There was a lot. Velociraptor is probably the most famous one, again, because of the movies. But movies can also be a little deceiving, right? We always want to pay close attention when it comes to movies, because movies, innately, what they are is they're entertainment, right? Movies want to entertain us. They want to make us laugh. maybe make us cry, maybe scare us a little bit. And sometimes movies will take the truth about something and kind of stretch it to make it a little bit more happy or more scary or more sad, right? And that's their job. It's to entertain us. Well, the Jurassic Park movies, they kind of did that with the Velociraptor. In real life, Velociraptors were only about this tall. They weren't that big. They were kind of like a really big chicken or a turkey. They weren't that big. All you guys out there were taller than Velociraptors. You were all bigger than Velociraptors. But even though they weren't really big, they were still very fierce creatures. They had a lot of teeth. They had super big claws, and they could have really injured us badly. So even though they weren't big, they were still dangerous. But we always got to keep an eye on that with movies and make sure they're telling us the absolute truth. Well, let's take a look at some of these dinosaurs. If we jump right in, we talk about raptors. Like I said, Velociraptor is one of the most famous, but here in Colorado and a lot of the places in the western United States, we had much bigger ones. More like the ones that the size of the ones in the movies. Utahraptor, Dakotaraptor, Deinonychus, right? And also one thing I want to say real quick when it comes to like the word Deinonychus, when it comes to dinosaurs, some people pronounce names differently. So there's nothing really that's wrong. So some people say Deinonychus and some people say Deinonychus, right? Some people say Diplodocus, some say Diplodocus. So people sometimes pronounce names a little bit differently. So I'm going to say Deinonychus. And Deinonychus was a big dinosaur, a big raptor that lived right here in Colorado. We also have things like Microraptor and Eoraptor and Oviraptor, right? So raptor can be used a lot. In fact, today, in modern days, we use the word raptor to describe what? You guys know, if I say, hey, look at the raptor at the zoo, did you see those? You guys got your hands raised. We talk about eagles, right? Eagles and hawks and falcons and owls, the birds of prey, right? We call them raptors, and rightly so, because one of the things that makes dromaeosaurs, raptors, so well known is claws. They had big claws, not just on their fingers, but on their toes, right? And let's take a look at some of those claws. I have my little skeleton right here. This is a replica. This isn't real. This is a replica of a baby Velociraptor. But if I show you right here, you can see one of the things that they're most famous for is that toe claw. And they talk about that in Jurassic Park. That's that claw that they can lift up on their toes and slash like a knife. So they might jump on a dinosaur's back and slash at it. And this claw was something that another dinosaur really had to be careful of, because that claw could do a lot of damage. And to give you an idea, I'm going to show you, there's a replica right here, but that's a claw to a Deinonychus. Look at the size of that. If I put it next to my face, that's a pretty big claw, right? So that would be up on his toe, and he could slash at something really, really dangerously and do a lot of damage to another dinosaur. And remember, in the past shows we've had, when you look at a claw or a horn or a spike, remember the fossil you're looking at, in real life, that claw or that spike or that horn was much bigger. Because why? You guys remember? It's covered in a layer of something. Yep, I see keratin, right? The same stuff our fingernails are made of, the same stuff our hair is made from, the same stuff that a rhinoceros's horn is made from. There would have been a big, thick covering of that. So this claw in real life would have been way longer and curled and sharper. So it would have been really sharp and really damaging to any animal. So there's a look at one of those toe claws. It would have been up on a toe, and they could have jumped on a dinosaur's back and slashed, and they could even like cut open his belly. It could have been really nasty. These things would have been really dangerous, and this is a pretty big one. You look at this baby Velociraptor, that one's pretty small, right? So you got the toe claw, one of the most famous aspects of raptors. Not all of them had this, mind you, but most of them did. They had that big famous toe claw for slashing away. Now, one of the other claws they had, of course, was on their fingers, right? And the raptor animals, or dromaeosaurs, and a lot of the meat-eating theropod dinosaurs had 3 fingers. Your Allosauruses, right? Your Carnotaurus, a lot of that. Carnotaurus actually had 2. And T-Rex only had 2. That's one of the things that makes T-Rex real famous, is he only has 2 little fingers, right? Well, raptors had 3. And now some of you guys have seen this fossil before, and this is one of my all-time favorite ones. So actually, you guys pick up your footprint again. I see a lot of you guys holding it out there. There we go. Pick up your raptor footprint. So this arm that I have is probably the size of the dinosaur that this goes to for your footprint. Look at this arm. Some of you guys have seen this before. There's the 3 fingers right there for slashing away, right? I remember the claws would have been way longer. The claws would have been about that long. They would have been really curved and really sharp, and they would have had those 2 arms, and they would have jumped on something and just slashed and slashed away. And they would have been strong, pretty strong for their size. And also one of the things that raptors have, and we're discovering more and more from the fossils we discover about them, is do you guys think, let me ask you, you guys can answer this for me. And I'll watch you guys either nod your head yes or go like this no. Were raptors, was their skin like scaly like a reptile? Or were they really colorful with feathers? Yeah, I see. Yeah, you guys are smart. Exactly. They had all kinds of feathers. And this arm right here would have had all kinds of feathers splayed out like this, hanging down, right? Almost like a wing. But they didn't flap them like a bird. They had them out front like this. So the feathers would have been down like this as more of a decoration. And to give you an idea what I'm talking about, we'll look at a couple drawings right here. Here's a really good one. This is Deinonychus, or Deinonychus, some people like to say. Here's a great drawing right here of one. And you can see those feathers right there on his arm splayed out, right? For decoration. There's a couple different ones right there. And there's the claw. You can see that big toe claw. A lot of them have that big toe claw. But one of the things that's really interesting about feathers is this. When feathers first came about, when these dinosaurs started growing feathers on their bodies, it wasn't to fly. It wasn't at all to fly. It was to help them maybe keep kind of warm, because the climate was changing and parts of the world were getting cooler. So they didn't have electric blankets and jackets. So they started growing these little feathers that eventually got bigger and thicker if they were in colder environments, right? And it helped keep them kind of warm. And one of the other things these feathers did is much like what birds of today do. If you look at something like a peacock, or really colorful parrots or parakeets, right? Or even a lot of the birds you guys will see outside the windows of your house, they're very colorful. They have all kinds of beautiful colors on them to show off, right? Because one of the things in nature that animals like to do is they like to show off. They like to say, look how gorgeous I am. You either better be very careful of me or just look how pretty I am. Look at that one right there. Now remember, when it comes to the colors of dinosaurs, whether it's Triceratops or Stegosaurus, or whether it's the feathered raptors, the feathered dinosaurs, we don't really know what colors they were, right? Because the colors of the feathers didn't survive. Here's another one that's pretty crazy. Look at that one right there. The colors are something that's kind of made up by the artists that draw the pictures. And what they do is they get a good idea of what the land was like, where these dinosaurs lived. Did they live someplace where they had to camouflage themselves? Or did they live someplace where they could just show off? Were they really big and they could get as much attention as they wanted because they were big and strong? Or were they small and timid and needed to hide so they didn't get eaten? So that's one of the things. They get better ideas of where they lived to give them a better idea of what they might have looked like. Now here's something really interesting to think about. Think about this for just a second. I know I see Sophie's got her thinking cap on hard right there. So when we talked about velociraptors being like the size of a turkey, what do turkeys have on their faces that make them look really weird, right? They have those big, long skin sacs that hang down when they go gobble, 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 gobble. They got that thing that shakes around on their face. It's called a waddle. Well, they're really weird-looking animals. If you look at a skull from a turkey, it's just a skull. You don't see all the feathers. You don't see all the colorful skin, the weird skin waddle thing flapping on them. None of that shows up on a skull, right? And it could be the same with raptors. they may have had that very same display stuff. They may have had those weird skin things, those growth things that hang under their chins like that. Look at this picture of a Deinonychus. Now remember, Deinonychus is one of the raptors that I mentioned that was pretty big. He was one of the bigger ones. He lived here in the western United States, including Colorado, where I am. And he would have been a dangerous dinosaur. But when you look at this picture, you got to kind of think, wait a minute. Is that thing really that scary? Look at that thing. That is definitely like a turkey dinosaur. He's got that waddle, all that funny skin hanging down like that. And dinosaurs could have had that. They very well could have looked like that. We just don't know because that part doesn't survive, right? That part doesn't fossilize. It disappears just like skin and eyes and meat, right? It all kind of just disappears. But they're very peculiar animals, these guys. So also what I wanted to mention is when it comes to raptors, a lot of people think that they traveled in packs too, right? A raptor pack, which is kind of a scary thought. And for a long time, scientists thought that they probably didn't, right? They might have just traveled around by themselves. But one of the things you guys hear me say all the time is fossils never lie. Fossils always tell the truth of what these animals were like and also how they lived and where they lived, what the world was like when they lived, right? And recently, some paleontologists found some areas that had a lot of footprints from different size raptors in one area, which would lead them to believe that there was a group of them all living together. So there it is, the fossil showing that in some instances, there were raptors that lived together in groups. But then just like some birds, they live by themselves. Often if you go outside, you'll see a crow, and it might be hanging around with a bunch of other crows, or you see a whole flock of birds all hanging out together. But every now and again, you might see a robin or a falcon or a hawk, and they're kind of by themselves, right? So there's probably a little bit of both. I bet some of them lived in groups, and some of them probably lived on their own, just like modern animals do. A lot of reptiles today, your lizards, snakes, turtles, crocodiles, alligators, they're pretty solitary animals, which means they live by themselves. There might be other ones around, right? If I go to the Florida Everglades, there's going to be a lot of alligators swimming around. So you want to be careful if you get in the water, right? So there might be a lot of alligators around, but it doesn't necessarily mean they live together. They just happen to be in an area together, but they don't live like together like in a house by them, with a group of them. So that's something to keep in mind as you compare dinosaurs to animals that live today. But raptors, among other dinosaurs, they're extremely unique, and they're definitely the closest relative to birds today. One of the things they have in common is not just the claws and talons, and you see those talons on eagles today, which is why we still call eagles and hawks raptors. If you look at their feet, they have extremely long, sharp claws, and you'd be really surprised at how strong and powerful eagles can be. Eagles are so strong, they can grab a small animal, and just by squeezing, they can break their backbone or break their neck. So they're extremely strong creatures. And on top of it, they have those really sharp talons for grabbing things. So I imagine raptors from the dinosaur era would have been much, much more intense, much stronger, much more nasty creatures, because not only did they have the talons, then you throw in the teeth. And I have some teeth here to show you guys. So the ones on top are from really small raptors. You can see how tiny some of those are. There's my finger right next to that one. Look how tiny that one is. That's a really little raptor. Then you got some of the bigger ones, like this one here. This would be more like your Deinonychus or your Utahraptor right here. So these are real teeth, and they're all different sizes. And one of the things that's interesting is when we're out digging up dinosaurs, if I'm working on like a Triceratops skeleton, right? Triceratops was the kind of animal that if it died, that's a lot of food lying around, right? That's a lot of meat. So animals from all over would come eat on that. And you sometimes see that if you see a big animal in Africa that's died. You see all kinds of animals kind of getting their little bits and pieces of that animal, which makes it eventually disappear. When we're digging up like a Triceratops, we often find little raptor teeth just lying around. Because dinosaurs, as you know, a lot of dinosaurs, especially meat-eating dinosaurs, their teeth would grow in and fall out and grow in and fall out all the time. Whether they just got old and worn out or whether they would break off, different things would occur. So their teeth would fall out a lot. So raptor teeth of all different sizes, whether it's a little teeny one like this guy or a bigger one, it's really common to find raptor teeth lying around some dinosaur that had died and was getting chewed on by all kinds of things. It's kind of crazy to think about. But there's a little overview of the raptors, remember? So if we look at the basic overview of your raptor, they are a sure-footed, lightweight animal. Their bones were very lightweight, like modern birds, probably fairly hollow, almost like a straw, to make them lightweight so they can move fast. That's one of the things that raptors are known for, is moving pretty quickly. They're pretty smart animals. Raptors are one of the smartest dinosaurs, and they can tell that by measuring the little hole in their skull where their brain would have been. In relation to the size of their skulls, that little hole is a pretty big void. It's a pretty big opening where that brain would fill up. So that gives the scientists a good idea of how big their brain was. And of course, with animals, just like us, the bigger the brain, the more intelligence you have, right? Now, I'm not saying that raptors could do math, right? They probably couldn't spell, but they really knew probably how to hunt, how to be safe, probably more so. And unfortunately, the fact that raptors are really smart means a lot of the other dinosaurs were not that smart. The big giant long necks probably were not that smart. Triceratops, Stegosaurus were probably not that smart. In fact, Stegosaurus, pound for pound, is one of the dumbest animals, which is kind of sad, but it's also kind of funny at the same time. So your raptors, you're sure-footed, they're fast, thin bones. They run around on 2 feet. They had 2 hands with 3 fingers and long claws. They would have had feathers hanging off all over the place. If I show you this toy right here, you can see the feathers kind of just all over the place. It's more of a decoration. He's got some on his tail right there. They're more of a decoration because, well, here's one of the other unique things about feathers, which I forgot to mention a little while ago, is the whole idea of flying. We think of course, when we think of a bird, when we think of feathers, we immediately think of flying, right? Feathers means flight. And in almost all cases, that's absolutely true. There are some birds, however, who are covered in feathers who cannot fly, right? Ostriches, emus, cassowaries, they're all really big birds that are simply too heavy to get off the ground, so they cannot fly. But raptors, they were very lightweight. It took a while for them to probably get the ability to maybe not even fly, but more glide. So the whole idea of feathers and flying was kind of an afterthought. Flying was kind of a byproduct. It was almost like an accident of feathers forming. Remember what I said before? Feathers formed most likely to help keep the animal a little bit warm, like having a sweatshirt on or a light jacket when they needed it. It also helped them be able to show off with really colorful displays, would look at like a peacock when it fans its tail out. Can you imagine a raptor fanning out its feathers? They might have done that. But the whole idea of flying kind of came as an accident. So a lot of the smaller dinosaurs could probably climb way up into a tree, jump out of the tree, open their arms up, and the feathers would help them float down to the ground without getting hurt. And eventually, over time, over millions of years, they developed the ability to leave the ground, flap their wings, and simply take off. So flying was kind of an accident when it comes to feathers. So we got lightweight, we got hollow, very lightweight bones, a smart animal, pretty sure-footed and pretty quick running around, and it's got the feathers, right, to show off, to be warm, maybe to fly later on, a mouthful of very sharp teeth, right, no matter what size they are, they definitely had the teeth, they had the weapons right there. Their claws, both on their feet and on their hands, made a big difference in how they could attack other animals, how they could defend themselves. But one of the main things about raptors is that claw right there. That not all of them had it, most of them had it, and that's that sickle claw. This one right here that they would use to jab at things and slash at things. It would have been a very dangerous weapon for them to have, and it could have done a lot of damage to you or to me. Even meeting a smaller a smaller size raptor, if they had claws like this, we'd be in real trouble. But they are amazing creatures. There's lots of different kinds. Hopefully we'll keep finding more and more. We're finding more around the world where the fossilized feathers are there. Maybe we'll get a better understanding as to actually what colors they were, which is pretty cool. But keep reading about raptors. I promise you I'll keep reporting on any raptor stuff I found. I did find some raptor footprints right down the street from where we are here in Colorado, so we know for sure, because fossils never lie, that we know there was raptors walking around right here, and they were a very common creature. They were all over planet Earth, from China to Africa to Europe to America to South America. Raptors were all over the place. They came about in the middle of the Jurassic, and they became really, really abundant and popular through the Cretaceous all the way to where the asteroid struck. And I'll tell you what, there's some animals that it's really a bummer to know they went extinct, because I would have loved to have seen a raptor in real life. Wait. We can see raptors. I see eagles all the time, right? All right, well, there you go. I think we can open up to some questions right now, because I see you guys come. Some of you guys got some questions on your mind. So Lily, what we got going on for questions?
I think everybody's thinking.
Is everyone thinking right now? You guys got your thinking caps on, right? Jack's got a question. Jack, go ahead and type in your question. Let's see.
He's trying to talk.
He's trying to talk? Okay, let's see. I think he's got a question, so we'll see what happens. And just in the meantime, until he types his question up, I got some cool stuff coming up this summer, so you guys know. Remember, we're going to be doing these shows every Saturday for those of you guys that signed up. Some of you guys, I think you're just doing a couple shows, but you can always sign up for more. And whatever shows you sign up for, we'll send you the fossils for them, okay? But in addition, we got a lot of cool stuff going. And I know I told a lot of you guys about the TV show Fossil Quest, and I apologize for the late delay. We're still trying to get it shot. It's been tough out here in Colorado. We've had a lot of extremely windy days, and the weather's not been very agreeable. So we haven't had a chance to shoot as much as we planned on. But it is coming, I promise. And I will let you know as soon as it comes on. All right, I think Jack's got a question. Has he got it typed in there? Let's see, what does it say right there?
I think he's going to ask.
Oh, he's going to ask something? All right, here we go. I think Sophie's got a question too. I can see her looking, her brain's working as well.
Caleb has a question.
Caleb's got a question? Okay, all kinds of questions rolling in.
Caleb wants to ask if a bone he found is a fossil.
Caleb wants to ask me if a bone he found is a fossil.
Here's your camera.
Can you hold it up to the camera, Caleb?
There it is.
It's a dinosaur bone because I know that it's a bone, but I don't know what kind of bone it is.
Wow, that is really peculiar looking.
Yeah, I find lots of bones.
Well, that's because you're a dinosaur hunter. I know that for sure, Caleb. You know what you could do? Why don't you have your mom take some really good close pictures of it and then text it to me so I can see it closer, okay? One of the hardest things to identify bones is to not see them in person. So if we get some really close-up photographs, I can really zoom in and see what it looks like up close. But I love that Caleb's getting out there and hunting for dinosaurs. I know a lot of you guys are, because there's so many dinosaurs to find. If you remember one of the shows we did the last couple of months, I talked about, so far scientists have discovered about 600 dinosaurs that you could name. Stegosaurus, Triceratops, the different raptors. About 600. They think there's probably another 600 out there. I think Sophie has a question. What's Sophie's question?
Could a raptor kill a long-necked dinosaur?
Could a raptor kill a long-necked dinosaur? That's a great question, Sophie. And here's, unfortunately, the only answer I can come up with is probably sometimes. And I'll tell you why I say sometimes. Think about in Africa, the largest land animal in the world is an elephant, right? A full-grown elephant, nothing can tangle with that. A full-grown, healthy elephant, nothing can bother it. It is so big and powerful and strong, no animal would ever take on, no smart animal would ever take on a full-grown elephant. But not all elephants stay that way, right? Sometimes when they're born, they're babies and they're not that strong. Even when they're young, if they're 9 or 10 years old, they're not full-grown yet. So if one of those wanders off by themselves, an animal like a lion could get it. Also, once they get past their full-grown healthy, just like people, they can get really old, right? And when people get really old, even though they're still healthy, they got to be careful. They're just weaker. They're not as strong. They're more fragile. When you see a very old person, they're still laughing and having fun and talking, but they're not as strong. They're a little more weaker. Same with elephants. So a lion could take down an old elephant. So Sophie, it was probably the same with the giant long necks. When you have a full-grown Brachiosaurus, it's so big and strong that even something like a pack of Allosauruses probably won't try and take it on. It's just simply too big. They would not be very smart to try and take on an animal that big. But if it's an old Brachiosaurus that's lived out its life and is having a tough time because it's so old and it can't get as much food, so it's weak, or maybe it's injured, or if it's a really young Brachiosaurus, I think a group of raptors could take it down. Yeah, I think the bigger ones could. But if it's your normal old one, it'd be a tough time. So that's a great question. It's good to think about. We always got to think about all the options, right? Because just like you and I, all animals, dinosaurs were born, they were babies, they grew as juveniles, they got older, they were teenagers, they got to be adults where they were super strong and healthy, and then they started getting older. So in that whole shift of life, even a Tyrannosaurus Rex could get taken down by something else if it's old or if it's really young. So that's a great question, Sophie. We got another one? Jack's had a question? What's your question there, Jack?
So when I looked for some bones outside my backyard, but I actually found one.
You found wood?
I found actually two. One was a tooth of some kind of animal.
Oh, you found a tooth. Can you have it? Can you hold it up to the screen?
It's in. I think it's in the.
Oh, you don't have it on you right now? Well, I'll tell you what, Jack, take a picture of it and send it to me, and I bet you and I can identify what it was.
Okay.
Okay?
I got one from Gabe.
Good. All right, Gabe's got a question. What do you got, Gabe? Happy birthday, by the way, buddy.
Would raptors have preyed on other carnivores that could have been bigger than them?
Would raptors have preyed on other carnivores that could have been bigger than them? I would say in the natural world, likely yes, in the same way I just explained Sophie's question, right? If, like I said, if you have a Tyrannosaurus Rex and it's really old, I mean, Tyrannosaurus Rex only lived to be about 30 years old. So if you have a T-Rex that's 29 years old and really old and maybe has injuries that survived throughout its life and it's weak and its body hurts, I would say there's a chance that a Utahraptor, a Deinonychus, one or two of them could probably take it down. And that's the truth. That's just like I said with the analogy of a big elephant. A big elephant that's either injured or sore and weak and something like that. I think a couple lions could probably take it down, but that's all the nature. That's the cycle of nature. That's how it works, right? Everything goes back to the earth. So I think, Gabe, in some instances, there would be raptors that could take down large carnivores in the right circumstances. Great question. All right, do we have anything else? You guys, terrific first show. Did you guys have a good time? Do I get thumbs up? Did you enjoy all that? Awesome. Well, I think next Saturday, we're doing marine reptiles. We're doing the giant mosasaurs, the plesiosaurs, the ichthyosaurs. And you guys who ordered the kits should have the mosasaur teeth in there. Some of them are big and chunky. Some of you guys got some that still have the points on them. Some of them are just big and chunky ones, but those are teeth to the mosasaur. Exactly, there you go. I see you guys holding them up. Very good. Well, we're gonna be talking all about that. I got, as always, got some really cool fossils for you guys to see. There's yours, Sophie. I can see it. Terrific, guys. I think, do we have one more question? I think we have a question. Okay, what do we got there? Is that Ryan? Let me hold on 1 second. The Spoon family, the Spoon boys have a question. Let's see if we can get your mute turned off. Hold on 1 second. Okay, what's your question?
So, when was the first raptor with feathers? Like, when did they first live, and when did the Microraptor live? Because did the Microraptor evolve after the Raptors, and the Raptors eventually evolved getting smaller? So
Yeah, terrific question.
Flight, or did they get bigger?
Terrific question. So raptors first came about in the Jurassic period. So some of the oldest ones were
Like
found
170, 150 million years ago?
Say again?
So like 170, 150 million years ago?
Right about around 170 to 180 million years ago, in that part of the Jurassic is when they first started finding them. And that's right around the time they found the first Archaeopteryx that showed the fossil feathers. And I think Microraptor, he came a little bit later, I thought. I'm trying to think.
160, 150 million years ago.
Might have been in the Triassic. But some raptors, which is a little confusing, some raptors, even though they're called raptor, like an oviraptor, they're not really raptors like the other ones. No, they're called an oviraptor.
They're omnivores.
But they're not really. They're more of another type of dinosaur. They're a Saurischian type dinosaur, but they're not in the raptor family, even though they're called an oviraptor, for example. Does that make sense to your question?
Yep.
Perfect. Good job.
Caleb has one.
And Caleb has one more. Good question, Spoon boys. All right, Caleb, what's yours? Where are you there?
Show you another bone.
There you are.
No, it's too late.
Say it one more time.
I have a possum jaw.
You have a possum doll?
Jaw.
Oh, a jaw, a possum jaw. Well, you know what? I'm glad he said that. You know why, guys? Because here's something really interesting. Believe it or not, there's a lot of adults even in this world that think that there was no mammals during the dinosaur times, that all it was dinosaurs and reptiles walking around. But just like Caleb said, he has a possum jaw. And during the dinosaur times, even the times of T-Rex, there was mammals walking around. And they weren't much bigger than rabbits or possums. They're about this big, but there were mammals and little mice and rats and stuff scurrying around the feet of the giant dinosaurs. So
Sometimes they'd even
that
steal
jaw
their
in your
eggs and eat
collection
them.
for sure.
Sometimes
It's always
they'd
cool to
even
have
steal
that
their
stuff.
eggs and eat them.
All right, guys, that's it. Terrific job. It's Saturday. Go out and have some fun. We'll see you next Saturday for marine reptiles. It's going to be awesome. So get outside and have an adventure. We'll talk to you later. Take care.